So let me start then. Ruhi, okay. So hello everyone, welcome to the Power Virtual Hours conducted by D365 Champs today. A very good morning, afternoon, and evening based on your location. I will try my level best to make the session interactive and alive. So please bear with me for the next 40 to 45 minutes. I hope by the end of your basis 50 minutes, you will be confident enough to build, use, and implement Azure Logic apps for your customer or for your own company in more prominent way to get the best return for your investment. I would like to briefly introduce myself here, and then I will start with the agenda for the session. My name is Ambesh Singh, currently working with the KPMG Deutschland as a Dynamic 365 architect and a technical manager within Microsoft practice. Prior to that, I worked with Pearson VUE and EA Games, and mostly in my career, I worked with the Microsoft in different product groups, global consulting, and deliveries. I'm also active members of different Azure, Dynamics, and Power Platform communities and the user groups around the world. So let's see the high level of agenda for today. I will do my best to cover as much as from the topic mentioned here, and as well as the topic outside from the list. So we will cover a brief about Azure Logicapp ecosystem, how and where to build, bonus tips from my learning in Azure Logic Apps, implementation journey, and so on, followed by Q&A. So let's start with what is Azure Logicapp. So as per the Microsoft, Logicapp is a cloud service that help you to schedule, automate, and orchestrate tasks, business processes, and workflows when you need to integrate apps, data systems, and the services across enterprise or organizations. The next question is why? You don't have to worry about building, hosting, scaling, managing, maintaining, and monitoring your apps. Logicapp handles this all the concerns for you. Plus you only pay for what you use based on your consumptions model. And the more important thing, how Logicapp works. So like every Logicapp workflow start with a trigger, which fires when a specific events happen or when the new available data meets for the specific criteria. We will see in more detail in coming slides and of course in the demos. And the most important, where to start from. So you can build your Logicapp visually with the Logicapp Designer, which is available in the Azure portals through your browsers and in Visual Studio. So honestly, I haven't used Visual Studio to build Logic apps, but you can do just in case if you need. For me, building apps over the Logic app designers on the browser is much more easier, convenient, and cleaner. So we have two pricing models, pay as use and fixed cost. So the consumption pricing model run in a public cloud or the global Azure app services. You pay only what you use for. In your Logic app, each steps is in an action, and Azure Logic apps meters all of your actions that run in your Logic apps. The other one is the fixed pricing model and integrated service environment like ISE that provide a private, isolated, and dedicated way for you to create and run Logic apps that can access resources in an Azure virtual network. For the Logic app that run inside the ISE, you need to pay the fixed monthly prices. So a few important things what you need to pay attention here, that actions get skipped due to unmet conditions. You don't need to pay for that one. And as well as the action that don't run because your Logic app is stopped before finishing it, maybe because of exception or maybe because of some unmet conditions, you also don't need to pay for that one. But one important thing here, like for actions that run inside the loops, Azure Logic apps count each action for each cycle in the loop. So suppose just an example, you have a 5 action in a for each loop or maybe the until loop, and it runs for 10 times, then Azure Logic app meter 50 50 actions counts in that case, and you need to pay for the 50 action runs. So we have a triggers here, but before like before explaining the triggers, I would like to just show a few things in the system. So you will be probably able to correlate well when I will just go through the slide. So let me just quickly jump to the browser in that case. A second. So the first thing is from where I should start it. So simply just go to the portal.azure.com. Just wait for maybe 10 seconds. And this is probably your entry point. So you can just go and create a resource from here. For me, as a best practices, I always start creating any of the resources in the resource group directly. So if I'm able to start and mapped with the resource group, it is easy of me to maintain in future. So I have already one of the resource groups. So let's see how it's work. So you are in the resource group, you just need to click on the add and then search for the LogicApps. And here you go. So you just need to create click on the create link. There are a few useful documentation available. It's always recommended to go through from that. It's provided by the Microsoft. So you can still change your resource group. You can change your subscription if you have multiple. You can give the LogicApp name. Then you can select which reason you want it. If you have a consumption-based model, but if you have a ISC model available, you can just go with the ISC. For me, it's always recommended that you choose the reason where the logic app triggers most and where you want to serve most from that one. You can enable or disable the logs for that one. For now, I will not create the new one, but I will just show you the existing one, which I have already created. So just give me a second. I can just quickly bring it up. An example, this one. So the moment you will click on the create button, you will render it here after reviewing your logic app stuff. So the window look like this. And from here, you can start it. So you can start with the available templates or the trigger points, which is by default available. You can start with a blank logic app and then start like initiating your own triggers and the other stuff on the top of that. So for me, just an example, I start with a blank logic app. And with the blank logic app, you can just go and use the example, any of the trigger point. For now, I'm using the common data services. So we have a common data services available. And when I want to initiate the trigger, so you have some trigger points here, like when the record is created, when the record is deleted, or when the record is updated. So an example, I want to just trigger my logic when the record is deleted from any entity. And here you need to just sign in to your common data service with your credentials. So you can, the moment you will sign in, it will create a connection. And then you can start using the like pulling the entities and the other stuff from your CDS environment or the instance. I will not create this one. I have few logic app already created and available. I would like to show them. An example, this one. So just go to the edit where we left in the previous browser. And here you go. So if you notice that the current trigger which I have available here, it's a dynamic 365 trigger of here because there is with the recent changes in the Microsoft, it's always recommended to go with the latest triggers, which is derived from the CDS. I would not recommend to just go and create any of the trigger points based on dynamic 365 longer. It's not officially announced yet by what time Microsoft will support these triggers, but it always recommended to now choose the common data service trigger points. So example like this, I have already the trigger point. I already made the connections with my dynamic instance, the organization name and the entity name. The next important thing, how often I want to check the items from the pools. So you can start with the 1 second to I think 500 days. Uh, like you can just give the pools for that one. And for now, I just use the 90-second. By default, I think it's available for 3 minutes. So you can check it that one. So you can mention in the months, week, days, hours, minute, and second as well. That's up to you. What parameter do you want to edit there? So if you can see all of these blocks, it's called an actions. Actions can be a trigger, it can be the conditional, it can be a variable declaration, maybe the different type of actions available. Like it's a lot of actions available within Azure Logic Apps. So next, in an overview, if you can see on the top, like I have the few toolbar buttons. Like if you made any changes, you can save, you can discard, you can run immediately. You can go to the designer or the code view. So an example, currently I'm on the designer, so I can just quickly move to the code view. If I'm well versed to write the code, I can just directly make the changes here. Um, I can go to the templates, like if I just need to automate that one, I can see all the connectors. And if I just need a kind of the help from out of boxes or environment or ecosystem, I can just click on that one. And apart from that, if you can see on the top here, like I have a run trigger. If I just need to run the trigger immediately and check the data pool, I can refresh it to see the updated changes here. I can click on the edit, and the moment I will click on the edit, I will just go back to my designer view. I can delete the logic app. I can disable it. I will come later on that the differences and what they mean for the delete and disable, like when we should delete it or disable, something like that. But in a subsequent slide, you can clone the solution and you can export as well for the automation and maybe for to the different environments. So I will definitely come in all of this point in subsequent slides. And on the left pane, you have some of the submenus available. So like an example, I'm on the overview. I can go with the IAM, like access control stuff. I can go also from the Logic App, from here to the Logic App designers and the app code views. I can see the different versions or the changes which I did it with my Logic Apps. I can make some of the workflow settings or the Logic App settings from the workflow settings submenu here. And I can go with the authorization, access key, and there are a lot of
Sorry,
things available.
Ambesh.
Yes.
Sorry. I just have one question
Mm-hmm.
just to understand myself. This is my first time looking at it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I did raise my hand, but I think obviously you're presenting, so you cannot see it. But
Yeah.
what I wanted to know, in the previous screen you were showing, they were runs of the Logic apps or whatever exactly it is called. It says
Mm-hmm.
succeeded. So
Yeah.
do we have to pay in a way that every run is counted? Like you get 2,000 runs per user per month?
Okay. So with the best of my knowledge, the main thing, you don't need to pay for the runs, but you definitely need to pay for all the actions which is executed in that run. Either the run has succeeded, either the run are failed on any of the point, but you definitely need to pay the charges for every actions. And
So
I will
it's
share
not
those details.
every app, it's every step or action which we have included in that app.
Yes,
Logic
which
app.
runs.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
which will execute. Um, just like because you asked this question, I would like to just quickly show one of the run here. So just let me open.
Sure.
And the charges or the metered for every action here, it's different. Um, I will share those details too in the subsequent slide. So just bear with me. Okay, so an example here, I have, if you can see on the screen, I have the
Yeah.
multiple actions here, right?
Hmm.
So if you can see on the right, it's ticked, and whatever is ticked or failed. So there are few which is skipped. So you skipped, you don't need to pay for that one.
Hmm.
But definitely whatever is succeeded or failed, for whatever reason, you need to definitely pay for those
Yeah.
things,
So, which
but not
means
for the
a
skipped one.
person who's creating these needs to be
Mhm.
really mindful of what steps they're including and what filters they're applying so that there are minimum actions or steps to achieve the objective.
Exactly, exactly. So an example. I'm just giving an example. Like my requirement is my account my account logic app need to be executed.
Yeah,
But if my account type is, just say you have some custom field on your account, and your account type is a like a permanent account or the temporary account, but you need to just execute your logic app for the permanent account. So you
yeah,
can make your filter here on the first step, like on the trigger point, that
yeah,
okay, my logic app need to be executed only for the permanent type, not for the others one. So in that case, definitely your logic app will be triggered and executed on the basis of those condition. This
sure,
is the first thing. And later on also, like if you think like you have some of the conditions, then you may just put a conditional statement here or conditional action that okay, maybe if it is account type permanent, because you can even combine the trigger met condition on the first step. But maybe in future, like if you have more conditions there and you don't want to just change the trigger actions, you can just put a conditional statement on the first step, like definitely not on the before the trigger but after the trigger as a first statement, and just say okay, I want to execute only if this is the condition. So an example, I just put a condition: if someone is giving the account name, then only this need to be executed. And in that case, there was no account name. Just an
sure.
example. I
Got
will
it.
show this one also, and that's why it's terminated, and it say okay, no account name is
Got it.
available,
Got it.
right?
Thank you so much.
Something like this.
I just want to ask you one thing. That are
Hmm.
you okay with people asking questions as you go, or you want them to ask towards the end?
I would prefer to just ask towards the end because
Okay.
I
Okay.
would quickly just complete my stuff, and then I would focus
Sure.
on the
No.
queries here.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. And meanwhile, they can just post their queries on the chat window. So if like system is slow or if the browser is taking time to just load the page, I will just pick up the questions from there.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so that's what I was trying to tell. And then you have a monitoring, you have a support. Like if something is not working and you need some support from the Microsoft, you can just directly go click here and start with your support ticket. So that is more and less related with the overview that how the UI looks like. And then I would just quickly go and see Logic App Designer here. Like this is the common data service or the parameter I have choose. So I would like to discard it here for now and want to show a few more things, or maybe I can go to the home page here, back. So I was talking about the trigger points. So basically in the Logic app, we have three core trigger points. One is the pooling trigger, which I have just shown you an example, like serious triggers or like a dynamic 365 triggers, where they pool for some, like maybe for few duration, maybe 90 second, 1 second, like from 1 second to 500 days. So they pool it there, and then they will execute all of their parameters on the base of that one. The second one, the trigger is basically the webhook. So you can just go with the HTTP request receive. So an example, you just create your logic app based on your HTTP request. And the moment you will save, a URL will be generated here, and then you can call this URL from outside of the Azure or Microsoft ecosystem as well, like from even normal HTML page or something. That is the second thing. The third thing is the recurrence, which is again an important aspect. And the recurrence come in the scenario, like an example. Your finance department need to calculate the monthly salary for the employees on every 25th of that particular month. So this we can put in a recurrence, like every month, every fortnight, every year. If you need to renew the contract or something, then you can go with the recurrence trigger. So for the recurrence trigger also, like if you can just go there a second, I can show you. So you have a schedule available there. So you can go with the recurrence here. So you can opt any of the three parameters what you want to go for. So yeah, that's what I just explained. You have a pooling triggers, you have webhooks, and you have a recurrence. Based on your condition, your requirement, your business model stuff, you can just go either one of any of this parameter. Now, I would like to talk about the limitations and the configuration informations for Azure Logic App. And we should really aware about it before modeling the Logic apps. So let's start with that. And if you can see here, like I can just go with maximum 500 actions per Logic app. So I have explained you what the action called, like a building block there. So you cannot add 500 first actions in your logic app, and this is really important. So believe me, there would be definitely condition if you're like if you are integrating to enterprise level environments via Logicapp, you need to go, and you definitely need to go more than 500 actions in the single Logic app. So there is always a way to achieve that one, but you need to really focus on this numbers. So you cannot add more than 500 actions per Logic app. If you need to go beyond that, you definitely go for the nested Logic apps or the workflows. And then the second aspect is allow nesting depth for any of the action is 8. And what does it mean? Let me just quickly go and show in the logic app so you can able to correlate that one. Okay, I can go there. So meanwhile it is loading. Like there's one more thing, you cannot declare a variable more than 250 counts. So if you need this, then again the option is you can either go with the object kind of stuff, or you can go with the array, or you can just go with the nested logic apps. The switch scope case limit is 25, but now it's loaded. So I would like to show something called the depth. So an example, I have one this action here, like a try. And in that, I have the second level of depth. I have the third level of depth here. I have a fourth level of depth here. I have a fifth level of depth here. So something like that, I can go maximum till 8 level. The moment you will reach to the 8th level, you will not get an option here to add an action. So it will be blurred. That is the important thing. The other was I told you like there will not be more than 250 variables. So if you are declaring any of the variable, maximum count up to 250. You cannot add more than that one. The switch cases scopes is limit to 25. So an example, I have a switch here. I can go with the 1, 2, 3. So in currently there are 4 scopes. So 3 is which I defined, and the 4th is by default available. So, but in that case, you cannot go more than 25 scopes for the switch cases. The character per expression, like if you wrote some expressions here, like an example this one or something, you cannot add more than 8192. And name for the action or the trigger, it should not be more than 80 characters. So what I mean to say here, like if you have name of any of the actions or the triggers, it should not be more than 80 characters. There is always a way, and it's recommended. You always need to give a comment. It's a free text box. You can just go add the comment there, and this you can add as much as the availability. I think it's definitely more than 256 characters. So you can add your comment, and it's really important. Like any other programming language, it's also important to just put the comment for any of the complex actions. I would, in my view, you should add it for the normal variable declaration also, because for you, it's easy to understand what you built for. But maybe just take a scenario like if someone is editing or making any amendments on those logic apps after 6 months of down the time, 1 year, it's really hard for them. And even for you as well, after 1 year to remember what you did it in your logic app. And it will definitely kill your time to just go and see every logic app actions, expanding it, watching it, go with the try run. So it always good you just put a comment here, which will definitely ease your task. The maximum parameter you can add 50, and the maximum output comes as a 10. So this is the stuff which you need to really consider. There are a few things which you definitely need to consider regarding the run duration and retentions. So an example here, I could quickly again go there and go to the workflow settings. So I was about to tell you the run duration and the storage retention. So for the normal, this is consumption based model, and for the consumption based model, your run duration can be between I think 1 week to 90 days. So the minimum you can go, I think it should not be less than 1 week. Yeah, it is 1 week till 90 days. So this is your retention, run retention and the storage stuff, and it's changed because for the ISA environment it's 365 days. So they pay more, they get more. But the one important aspect which I just need to tell you here is if you are declaring the run retention stuff here, the customized stuff, then you always need to consider for the dev environment, you don't need to store your run duration for 90 days because there will be the multiple triggers multiple testings is happening. So, and you definitely, it's not worth to just create a bulk for the 90 days. So it's always recommended for the dev environments, you can go for the 1 week, maximum 2 weeks for that, even not a month. But yeah, definitely for the UAT and production, you may go for the upper limits, but it cannot be more than 90 days for sure. Uh, the minimum recurrence interval and the maximum recurrence interval I have explained you. So the trigger point, which I have told you on the trigger, like you can just explain, okay, my trigger need to be pulled for 90, like currently it's 90 seconds, so you can go minimum 1 second and you can go maximum up to 500 days. So the moment I'm just going 501 days, it should give me the error when I will save this. So you can check it. So I cannot go more than 500 days here. Example. Okay. The next important aspect is the trigger concurrency. So it's unlimited when you use the trigger control. Concurrency control is off. Uh, the moment you will enable it, by default it's 25, but in some scenarios I saw the 20, so I just need to reconfirm on that. And you can go minimum 1 and the maximum 50. So it's a degree of parallelism for your actions and or the steps, I would say. So an example, there's a for each loop, and this for each loops can execute in a parallel way, like a multi-threaded way, and then it can go to the unlimited if you haven't changed anything, which is the recommended way, and if you don't have any specific business requirement. But in some scenarios, you definitely required, okay, I need to execute the loop maybe very sequentially. In that case, you need to just change the concurrency control, and then you need to move to the trigger concurrency 1. I will show you in the demos, as well as I will explain a brief in the next slides. The retry attempt, which is definitely an important aspect, like it's a 90 for the multi-tenant environments. The default is 4, so you can go up to the 90 days. I'm sorry for that. Retry max delay, you can make it a delay for 1 day. The minimum delay is the 5 second. I will explain in the demos. The custom connector limits, like the automate, you can also create a custom connectors in LogicApps, and the maximum the custom connectors you can create per Azure subscription is 1000. If you need more custom connector, you definitely need to go with more Azure subscription in that case. But there is always a point to consider that number of requests per minute for that custom connectors. It's 500 requests per minute. It like the execution, which is 2000 for for the ISA environments. So if you're creating the custom connector, you really need to focus on that one, that okay, how it's getting executed. Now I would like to just show you a few of the bonus tips and the tricks which I have encountered while I was working, and it's really important for you to get it. So disabling or deleting the logic app, which I have explained you in there, like you have a two option here. Let me just quickly go there, the disable and delete. So what are the difference, and when we should go for the disable, when we should go for the delete one? So if you delete, it means it's permanently deleted, and there is no way to just get back for those stuff. Disable it, yeah, definitely, as the name suggests, you can disable it for the specific duration, you can enable it back. But what point need to be considered here? So if you're deleting any of the logic app, if there is any runs which is triggering based on those scenarios or pulling condition or any stuff, it will stop it. Definitely, if thousands runs are going, it will take a moment, it will stop, it will not take anything in the pool, and then it will delete it. But if you disable it, it will wait to complete all of those 1000 runs, and then it will disable it. The second important aspect, like which I have encountered when I was working, if you disable it, like an example, I have a scenario, if the account is created, I need to run the logic apps, but there would be like what we when I have started a couple of years back, what I did, okay, I disabled it because I need to make a like a Excel import by which the data need to be created in account entity. And in that particular scenarios, we imported around like a couple of thousands data in our environment, and I disabled it before it, and I thought, okay, I disabled it, so those data import because imports definitely need to be created a record in the CRM, and then it will match with this condition, it will execute. So before that I disabled it, and I was thinking, okay, everything is fine. After importing it, I just look into, yeah, there was no runs, I was happy. But the moment I enabled back this, observed that all of those imports which I did it, they started executing here. And this make me really nervous. The good part, it was the testing environment, but then we try to find out the solution for that, and that one, I don't know it's a best solution for everyone or not, but if anyone have the best solution for that, definitely I would like to get those things. But what I did, I just changed the connections. So I went to the trigger actions. I just changed the environment for that, for those particular things. So you can change the environment, you can change the entity, and save it, and then do whatever the import you want to for those particular duration. Communicate to your team that, okay, for this duration, your Azure Logic App will not execute the business stuff, and then change the back to the normal, like your environments or maybe your entity in that case. So this is somehow I'm achieving it. I'm not sure if there is a better way to achieve that too, apart from the filter criteria. So this is one thing which was really important. The next in the naming convention, and this is really important. Like any of the programming language, we just not to delete, okay, variable A, variable B, variable C, or any steps name or something like that. Because believe me, if you declare or go in that particular fashion, it will be a nightmare for you if you start looking into Logicapp, or it is going for any review process or something. So suppose I have a get secret, I definitely need to just give, okay, I'm getting the secret from the keyword for which purpose. If I don't do this, it gets secret. Second one is a get secret 2, 3, 4, something like that. And at the end of the day or end of the development, it will be kind of really pathetic for anyone to just find out, okay, what is the get secret, what is I'm doing inside that, until I'm not coming and seeing, opening it and just seeing it, something like that. So it's really important to give the proper naming convention for your logic app. Instead, your variables, your actions, your loops, everything is really important. The same is for the logic app naming names also. So if you need to execute the logic app for some conditions on some environment on for some specific customers, it's always good to just provide those much of detail upfront in the namings. The next important is, like, should we use variable? Definitely we should use the variable. And is there any local versus global variable in the logic app? So definitely we should use the variable to cache the multiple like multiple required stuff, like which we need to execute or which we need to use every time. But the important aspect here, if there is no local variable here, so whatever the variable is here, it's global variable. It need to be declared at the root level. So an example, I have this try block, and I'm trying to like create a variable here. So just go and just type variable, and there's an initialize variable. So the moment I will do this, the operation initialize variable can only be used at the top level. Or you would say top level, you would say root level. But you cannot declare any variable inside the scope to make it as or act like a local variable like you used to do for other programming languages. So this point also need to be considered. So if you have any global variable, you're using this and you need to use it in a subsequent action, please always remember to reinitialize those things if it is required. Okay, the next one is the benefit of clone functionality, and cloning is really important for any aspect. So an example, you made all of your progress on the dev environment, you wrote a logic app, you want to move it to the UAT. You don't need to start with the scratch. Just simply go click on the clone and give your logic app name there. You cannot, the thing is, you cannot change the resource group here because it's meant for the same one. If you need to change the resource group, you need to go in a template way. But there's a tip, like if you are creating any of the, or you are cloning any of the logic app, always clone with the disable status. The reason why, because the moment you clone this, every connection of this logic app will also get cloned. So an example, your current logic app is meant for the dev environment. The connections of the CRM is for the dev environment. You clone it, it will create a new connection with the same stuff. So it will share the connection, and in that case, the newly created logic app will also refer to the dev environment, which you don't need it. You meant for the UAT environment or the production environment. So start with the disable state. After creating the logic app, go to your every connection stuff, and then update the connection with the UAT environment or the prod environment, or maybe any of the environment. So this is one stuff. Why timeout property is important. So definitely you don't need to run your logic app for forever. So if you are using this for any specific purpose, maybe you have an HTTP triggers or something, you should always go with the timeout. And just give me a second, I will show that one very quickly. So you go to the setting, and there is a property for the timeout. So you can go and apply the timeout there. So I think maximum you can go with I think 500 days or something, but you need to just check it, and you need to time out maybe after 2 minutes or something. So you can apply those things. Yeah. Okay. There is a very important aspect here for the synchronous and the asynchronous request, which I just told you. So an example, there is a property for the asynchronous pattern. By default, it's off. It always go with the asynchronous way. But if you definitely, if at some moment you want to just run in a very sequential fashion, you don't want to execute your like HTTP call or something in an async way, you can enable it, and then it can go with a sync process. So in async, you will get a 202. So if you're expecting something from those requests, it's not guaranteed because it's a 202. So it's notify, okay, the request has been triggered, it's received by the another endpoints, but it will not give you the result or response guarantee. If you need it, you just need to go with the synchronous way. Um, this is again an important, which I told you, the concurrency control. So I would just cancel it, and I would like to show you something. So before that, let me just quickly open any of the run. Meanwhile, I would go here and HTTP switch keys. So I have a two example here. One is for the for each, and the second one is for the for each concurrent example, just in case. So before that, I will come here. I would like to show you a few things here. So like what does it make impact if you have the concurrency on and off? So I have a two blocks here. One is a simple for each, and one is simple for each with like another for each with the concurrent example. If you can see, I am declaring a variable and incremented those variable by one. So this way, if it is not concurrent, it will go in a very sequential fashion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. But at the same time, I have the concurrency control here. So what does it mean? If you can go to the setting of any of your loop, you have a concurrency control, which I just talked to in one of the slide. You can make it on. By default, it's off. You can make it on, and you can make the degree of parallelism of to 1 if you really need to just go in a very sequential fashion. If you don't need to go in a sequential fashion, it's perfectly fine. You don't need to do anything, and by default, it will create as much as of instance the logic F wants to create it. So this is this stuff, and if you can see it here, like it started with any random number 9, it will go to 7, then 8. So you basically don't give the guarantee for that one. And there are some situations where you need to work in a very sequential fashion in a for each loop. Then it always good to just go with the concurrent, or like turn it on and go with the degree of parallelism one. This is a way you can achieve it. Try, fail, try again, and success, especially like if you are talking about to connect with the external components from your logic app, and it's meant for that one for sure, like a HTTP call, SQL connection, SharePoint connection. And if it is failing, there is always a way available. You can just go and go to settings, and there's an retry policy. So by default, it's like it will try for 4 times, but you can go with none if you don't want to make any retry. You can go with the exponential interval. You can go with the fixed interval. So an example exponential, it will go from 1 to 9, like it will try from 1 to 90, which I explained in one of the slide. You can make an interval that, okay, it need to be try for like every 20 second or maybe every 1 minute, and the minimum interval, the maximum interval, you can define it here. So you can opt anyone from the list. You can go with the fixed interval and anything from here. And it's really important, like if there is always an automated retry option available, and we should go for that one. We should utilize it if it is required. um, there is no harm to save your logic app, like if you are making any changes. So with the two specific I would say the best example is I'm making the changes in the Logic app, and I started with the like I started working on the Logic app on my Logic apps from morning. There's a lunchtime. I just went to the lunch, and the moment I came back, maybe my session is timeout, and because I haven't saved that, so all of my changes will be lost, and there is no way to recover those things. So this is the one scenario. The second best example is like if you are making any of the changes, why you always click on the save button, because if there is any error in your Logic app steps or the actions, it will pop up and it will notify you. And if you made the changes for whole day, and the moment you need to go to home and then you click on the save and you get a list of the error items, the first thing is really hard to understand from which action you are getting the error, because it always show you in terms of the number, like the line numbers from the code view perspective. So it's really hard to it's not very specific error message. It's a very generic, and it's really hard to find out the cause for that one. So especially if you have a lot of changes in your Logic app, so it's always recommended to save your Logic app very very oftenly. Now, there would be a scenario when you started with something, you made a lot of changes, you saved it, you went home. Next day, you came and your customer notified or your test team notified, okay, there was some issues, Logic App is not running as expected. So what you can what you can do there, you can go to the version, you can select any of the version from there, and you can promote the specific version. So it's a read only. You cannot make any changes there, but definitely you can go and promote that. The moment you will promote, it will just like overrule all of the changes after that one, and it will just go on the top. You cannot promote the current version, because definitely it's a current version. So there is no mean to promote that one. It always be a disable. So this is also important to know that how you can just kind of roll back your changes for the specific duration. If you remember that one, okay, yesterday evening, 5 o'clock, it was working fine, something like that. Should we use the preview action features? Definitely no. The reason is very simple. Microsoft don't take any guarantee for your preview features. It's depend like they will not take any of the guarantee if it is failing because of any reason. So it's always recommended if you're going on the production and if you think those preview features are or the product is not very stable, always go with the non-preview or the GA, like the general availability connectors, trigger points, and action. Don't go with the preview one for sure. There are the different data types, the 6, which I used to like. You can declare any of the variable by using these data types. There is no inbuilt conversion, so you always need to focus about that. If you really need to match or to like make a comparison, you need to really typecast that things. The next important aspect is the peak code, and what does it mean? So an example, I'm on the run. No, I need to just a second. So the best part of the peak code that you can't change it. And then the really important aspect that if you can't change it, then why I should see the code? And the response is very simple, that looking the code is it's not a way that every time you look the code if you need to change it. Maybe you just need an insight that okay, what exactly is happening in that particular section. And especially like Logic App meant for more pro dev stuff, and it's not very like a Power Automate which meant for the citizen developer or the business people. So people here who are working on the Logic App, they are more pro dev like a mindset, and they may want to just see all the inside outs in a one glance, and they can definitely go and see the code from here. This is the one thing. Second, if you really need to just make any changes, you can directly go to the code view. You can make the changes here, and then you can save your Logic app. So you always feel free to do this. But I don't think so that even I'm from the dev background, I really don't want to just make any changes or write any line of code there unless I just need to write some expressions in the code, like a filtered expression or maybe the conditional statement. I definitely love to just go and work with the code view, but not in the normal scenario. Like if I just need to use any actions, I need to declare any variable, I definitely not to go there. Um, Configure run after, and this is really important. By default logic app don't give you anything called a try catch finally block like other programming languages. If you really need to implement, there is a trick for that one. You can go with that. So you can just go with the scope. You can select the scope action. In the scope you declare everything what you think it can break. What should happen in the catch, you just go and mention in the catch that okay, for me if something goes broke, I should get an email, or all the admin should get an email that okay, this logic app with this run id breaked out, or there's an exception, please have a look for that. Finally, if I really need to close connections or whatever you want to do it here, you can just go. And what you need to go, just simply configure run after. So I just go to the catch block, and when it need to be run, when the previous block is failed. Simply, if it is not filled, then don't run me. And what about the finally block? So finally block, I definitely need to run on every aspect. Either the previous block is failed or previous block is successful. So you can just go and check if the previous block is successful, is skipped or whatever. I just need to execute this. So you can go in that fashion. Like you can implement your own try catch block. And believe me, it's really important to capture the stuff, to capture the logic app runs ID, because it will break intermediately. And if it will break anything out of box, it will not go outside of those things, like the next step. So what you can do, there's a trick, like you can just get the logic app run id. You can store it somewhere in a variable, and if it is getting failed, you can just make a email that okay, logic app failed with this run id. How it's look like, just give me a second, let me just show you, like what is the benefit to store something in your logic app as a run ID. So suppose I have this run ID, I created a account and account was successful, but maybe I am, because I'm also triggering on the catch condition, I can just simply go on my runs, your run history, because there are tons of the runs, and it's really hard to find out, okay, which, like definitely you can go with the failed one, yes it is failed, but if you want to go with a specific one, then it's really hard to find out with this number. So you can, if you captured the run id, you can just simply go and you immediately got it, okay, this is succeeded, this is failed, something like that. And it's really easy to find out if you have the run id just with one click. Okay, the next importance aspect is like definitely you need to go for the modular approach. Like if you are doing something repetitive, you always go and create a child workflows. Not only for the repetitive content, but if you have something like if you are exceeding with the actions counts or something, I created a child workflow. I just call it from here because it was the HTTP. I could call it from here, and also you could get an option here to call the child workflow. So anyone is fine, and this is my child workflow. If you can see here, so this is probably my child workflow, which is getting called from the parent one. The important thing, and you really need to understand, technically there is no difference between the child workflow or the parent workflow. They both are the logic apps. The both are the workflow with same share permission sets with same capabilities. So it is just a calling words. So okay, you created one as a main, and the remaining one is as a child one, and you are keep using those child in your parent one. But they all of the workflow which you create in the logic app are same, having the same capability. So there is no difference in that case. It's more logical stuff. Why should we plan for the logs? Definitely you need to plan for the logs because for UAT, it's okay, you can go in the run history, but for production, definitely you need a more overview. So you can go with all of inbuilt as a telemetry stuff. You can just enable it, and you can just have a view on your dashboard or something from the logs. High throughput, it's in the preview. So for this, you need to go to the workflow settings, and there is an option for the high throughput, and it is in the it is in the preview. So what you can do, you can enable it or disable it. And the important aspect is, like, suppose you have imported 1000 records, or maybe your console application created 1000 records on any entity as any entity. um, it will execute it definitely in a more parallel way, multi-threaded way. And you need to just give a more boost on that one. You just enable the high throughput, and Logic App or Microsoft will take care for that one. You don't need to bother about this. The next important aspect, which I have already explained, like you can customize your runs. You can go from 1 to 9, from 7 to 90, and you need to really think about that one. That your run shouldn't be more than 2 weeks for the dev environment. Advisor recommendation, you can definitely go for that one. It's free of cost from the Microsoft, from your security stuff, from your cost related stuff. You can just always go keep checking on that one. And there's a lot of cues or the clues available there, that okay, maybe you just use keywords, something in your Logic app which is unsecured, in an unsecured manner. You can definitely get a pop-up for that, and there's a security issue, and you can fix with, and either you can just click with the fix. You can fix with the click, or you will get a MS Doc link there, so you can go through and then you can fix it. Before I will go it there, I would just quickly show you something here. So suppose I just need to go to my account, and in the particular account, I'm just gonna create something called like a new account, D365 AMS Germany, save and close. Uh, I will go with the next slides because it will take a time to execute. But before that, I would just quickly go and check it on the Business Central, because the Logic app which I built, it on the create of the new account based on some business requirement, it will push those account information to the Logic app. Currently, I don't see a new record here. I will come back here very soon. Just bear with me. By the time, just quickly go to the slide. So you can get more information here related with the Logic app. It's documentation, their blogs, their channel line. You can submit your own ideas there. If you have any issue, like if you need to increase your like storage, you can definitely drop an email to with the Logic like to this email ID. Microsoft will take care of that one based on your justification. So by default, as I told, it's now like a storage limit is for the 90 days on the consumption based. But if you really have a business justification, you can go beyond that level as well. But yeah, Microsoft need to be agreeing those they need to be agreed. Uh, so you can connect on my social platform, ask your queries on my Twitter handler at the rate Ambesha19, scan your code to connect me over the LinkedIn, subscribe my YouTube channel for the slides and more demos and the Azure Dynamic 365 and the Power Platform technologies. I'm also planning to launch a free of cost course on the Azure Logic apps for the Power Platform and Azure business consultants. Citizen and the pro developers soon. So stay tuned and you will get updated information on my social channels or the Kaizala group. I'm really thankful to all of you to spend your valuable time and looking your positive feedback and suggestion. Please scan the QR code and use the short URL to access the feedback form. It will not take more than 10 or 20 seconds to provide your valuable response, but it's really, really important for me to grow my skills. I hope you find the session interesting and useful, at least to find a new dimension on your integration environment. I would like to open the floor for the question and discussion now. And more important aspect, I would like to just quickly show, because I created a run. So let me just see how it's behaved here. So I would go here. I would quickly refresh it and check if there is any run. So there was one run here. I would like to just quickly check this run. But because from this child workflow, I just called the another child, sorry, from this parent, I just created the another child and it should also be run. Everything is successful. I can directly go to my Business Central environment, go to the vendor, and it should it should be there. So you can see D365 Gems Germany, which I have created, and Dynamic 365C environments, it's getting reflected on the Business Central instance. So yes, and I'm open for the questions now.
Thank you, Ambasha. That was extremely informative. So, do you want us to ask you the queries, or you can just look up the chat window?
That would be great. Like, if you can just read it for me.
Okay. Yeah, sure, no problem. So the first question over here was from me itself.
Mm-hmm. Um, I'm sorry, but I can't
Sorry,
hear
logic
anything.
apps. So
Sorry to interrupt in middle, but maybe I lost you in between, so I couldn't able to hear you.
okay, so my question really is that when you added the D365 trigger
Hmm.
in the first couple slides,
Yes,
you showed us that there was a polling interval that was provided over there. So just
yes.
wanted to understand that uh, just like unlike Power
Mm-hmm.
Automate, where if I add
Mm-hmm.
a a CDS trigger or a
Mm-hmm.
D365 trigger,
Mm-hmm.
it is like automatic, it is instant. So when I create a record in CRM, it automatically triggers. But here, when I see that you're giving a polling interval, does it
Mm-hmm.
mean that this does not trigger automatically, and it is not real time?
Um, in one way, you can say yes. The other way, if you really need a real time, you just go and change it to the 1 second, because definitely, if 1 second is nothing, you can just go with minimum 1 second. You can save it, and then it will be kind of the real impact or the real impression. Why polling is important here? Because definitely they, as per the Azure resource consumption and any other aspect, it's always go in a buses way, like we know the service bus and those stuff. So it always capture few information, and then it will execute together, so it will give you the best result for your Azure infrastructure. But definitely you can decrease it to the 1 second, and it is real time in that case.
Okay, thank you. If we, I'm sorry. So if we go ahead, there is a question from Roma here, which says, "Have you
Hmm.
come across a scenario where you got into infinite loop? If yes, how could you avoid it?"
Okay, honestly, I haven't gone in any scenario where I would go in the infinite loop, because is there if there example, if there's a for each loop, I am just picking 10,000 record from a SQL table or the SharePoint list, it will execute those 10,000 in that case. The only thing in the for each loops, what I need to consider, that the first thing is, do I need to go in a way or the async way? Like I explained the concurrency stuff, so that point I really need to consider. And if I'm just making the like if I'm just reading from those for each loop, I'm triggering some HTTP calls, I'm reading some SharePoint lists, then also you need to focus on the timeouts and the retry options. The scenario which probably Roma asked, it could go for the until loop. So until loop is already available there. We can go with that, but there also you just need to put a time frame, and you cannot go the time frame as specified by the Microsoft. Like there's I told you there's a limit for that one, so you cannot able to save beyond or go beyond those time limits. If it is going beyond those time limits, it will definitely give you the exception, and the execution will stop there.
I hope that answers your question, Roma. If not, feel free to unmute and ask for further clarifications. Uh, m- Meanwhile, I'll just move ahead. There's
Mhm.
one from Prashant, which says that, is there a way to put them in a solution?
Definitely, we can automate it using the CI/CD pipeline. So I'm sorry for that one. Maybe I just forget it. A second. So you can go here, export template, and then you can just go with this parameters. By default, it's null. If you need to, because definitely you don't want to share your connection if you're exporting and importing it. But if you can go, you can deploy it. You can just download it and just like inject in the with the CI/CD pipelines, and definitely we can go with the automation for that one. I hope this is the query, right?
And I think probably he meant the solution concept that we have in the Power Platform, as in solution export import. So I believe since LogicApps is a part of Azure, we will not be
Mhm.
able to add them into solutions.
In
It was
Dynamics, sorry.
sorry, it was more about moving these logic apps from one environment to the other. So what's the way to do that? So I only know solution management. That's why I said solutions.
Yeah, that's what I have explained. So there are two ways to do this. Like if you don't want to just like automate much in that, you can just clone the solution, change the connection strings, and everything will be fine. Because definitely you don't need to touch your CRM solution for that one. Everything will be taken care from the Logic app itself. So because your all the connection strings stayed here, your connection poolings and everything is stayed here. That is one thing. If you really need to automate with using the CI/CD, like from this subscription, it will go to the other subscription. We can just automate using the CLIs and the other tools available, or maybe the CI/CD pipelines from the DevOps. So we can download this. So there is an option to export it, and after exporting, we can just push it to the CI/CD pipeline, and it will take care the rest for me.
We can export multiple or just one.
You can export or import multiple one, but here because it's a Logic app, so you can always need to export with the one. Okay, you mean to say at a time? Yeah, at a time you can export one.
Okay. Thank you.
And but one more
And
thing, Prashant will not be able to add this into our CRM solution. As Aruki mentioned, this is completely a different one. It's
Standalone.
lies in the Azure portal.
Yeah.
Will
I
not be able
understand.
to.
It was
Yeah.
the only term. I am not at all technical, so the only solution I know is CDS and Power Apps and whatever.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I just wanted to know if we can move them from one instance to the other or environment to the other. And
Mhm.
I've got my answer. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
thank you. And the next question again from Prashant is can we clear the values in fields via a condition?
Definitely we can do this for sure. So you can, if you have a variable, you can reset it. Let me just quickly show you. Meanwhile, so just pick the another question by the time I'm just opening it.
Sure. The next question is from Jayesh Kumar. He says it would be great if you can explain the best way of runtime error handling in Logic App or Power Automate. I believe you have already shown this, the try catch finally block. So, Jayesh, if there is anything more, or Ambesh, you want to add anything more here, you can go ahead.
Okay, so yes, definitely there's a try catch block. We can go with that. There are retry attempts, which I told you, it's out of box available, and we should utilize those functionality from our our product. The another way, like an example, if you're making HTTP calls, then you always catch the status code in the response, and on the state on the base of the status code also you can make a conditional statement. An example, if there is a 201 error, or sorry, if there is a 20 or 201 202, it's okay. But if there is anything in the 500 series or something, you can just make a retry attempt after putting some delay or something. So that also you can do it. So as I told, out of box there is an retry attempt, or the option is available, you can go for that. But technically, if you can ask me, or personally, if you ask me, I'm not very much satisfied with that one, if it is on most of the business scenarios. And it's always good go to with the try catch, or go with own status, capture the status, respond, and then write your logic accordingly. So the thing is there, like which Prashant asked, so I just am trying to use action here. It's a variable, and then there's an option for the set variable. So if you use the set variable here, you can just use any of the variable name. You can always reset with a blank values, with any of the values which you want to use that. So this is one option. And one thing I really forgot that one, and I'm sorry for that one. Actually, you can secure your logic app in a more prominent way in terms of the run history. In terms of the run history. So an example. Just a second. If you open any of the Logic app, there is an option for that you don't want to show the content, like incoming and the outgoing content for that one. And for that, I would quickly just go with the runs here. So if I just open this one, you can see the content not show due to the security configuration, and that also you can do. Sorry for that, I just forgot it out during the slide or the demos, but this is also really important for the aspect. And what how you can able to achieve this, you need to just simply go to any of the action and go to the settings, and there's an option for secure inputs and the secure output. So the moment you will enable it, nobody can read the values, neither you nor anyone. So that is also important. But I think he got his answer.
Yeah, thank
Yep.
you so much,
Thank you.
Ambesh. Yeah. Uh, okay, there's one question over here. We are performing some operations using Power Automate Flow. The same scenario can be achieved using Azure Logic Apps. If so, what is the difference between the both of them?
Hmm. That is very, very common question. Ruhi, I used to get this one, that what is the difference between the Power Automate and previously called Microsoft Flows and the Azure Logic app?
Guess what? I had that question. I've saved it towards for the end of the.
Okay. So, and believe me, on my every session, that is the very common question that people ask. The simple answer is I will start with what is the similarities between both of them. So the similarities, like Azure Logic App is a kind of the big brother of the Power Automate, and you can do all the scenarios what you can able to achieve via Power Automate via Logic App. There are few exceptions, definitely like kind of the request workflows stuff. It's not available there. But why I said it's a big brother, because for Power Automate, the internal engine which perform any action is derived from the Azure Logic App. So Azure Logic App is a kind of the running engine for the Power Automate. I would come to the difference, and the very common difference, because we have the business people in this forum right now over the call. We have more technical people over this call session. Like a Power Automate basically meant for the business or the citizen developers. Definitely, as a pro code developer, I can go there, I can walk there, but the end user perspective for the Power Automate is more for the business, towards the business consultants. For Azure Logic App, I would not say, and I don't have a dare to say that, okay, more business or citizen developers can't do there like much work, but it's technically it's more meant for the like a pro developers, because there are lot of things for the developers here. Like it's not only these things. You have a API, like API management framework. You can integrate with the multiple things, Azure Analytics, and a lot of stuffs there. So it's more meant for the pro developers. The licensing model is different. For Power Automate, you just need a Dynamic 365 or Power Platform license. For Logic App, you just need a Azure subscription for that one. um, how to build the Logic App is also different. How to build both of these workflows, it's also different. Power Automate, you can build it even via mobile also. Definitely browser is one of the option, like make.powerautomate.com and or powerplatform.com. And Logic App, you need to come to the portal.azure.com. uh, there is no other way. Logic App you can't build via mobiles. If you need to build Logic Apps, yes, definitely you can go with the browser, but apart from that you can go with the Visual Studio. So that also, like in terms of the building, is also different. There are a lot of other difference as well, because we are always running out of the time. I would probably create a short videos, or maybe we can just sync up in the another session which basically designated for this difference between the Logic Apps and the Power Automate, and we can run more through that. But if you have more specific question, don't hesitate, just ping me out and I would be happy to answer that one.
Yeah, thank you, Ampesh. And in the interest of time, we'll just take this one last one,
Hmm.
and then you can reach out to Ambesh privately for your questions. So you've answered this, but if you can just touch upon it again.
Hmm.
There's a question from Najat where he says, can we deploy Logic app to another environment? Is it portable? So a
It's
question similar
definitely
to
portable.
Prashant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely portable. As I told, like if you need to be in a same resource group, you can just go with the clone one. If you really don't want to just be in a same resource group, you want to integrate with the CI/CD pipelines or maybe some other automation way, you can just directly go to the export templates. You can download the template here and inject your CI/CD pipelines. So it's definitely portable. You can change the complete resource group, complete subscription, complete environment as well.
Thank you, Ambesh. And this was extremely valuable session. And yeah, I hope everybody just goes ahead and uh, submits their feedback on the URL shared on the screen right now. And yeah, if Prashant, you have any closing notes to share.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I'm really thankful you shared this because I wasn't aware of this, and this looks quite familiar because of Power Automate. And although you're saying it's very pro dev, but it looks like we still can do it because it's very similar to Power Automate in my point of view. Although you might think this was launched before Power Automate, so but then it has been really helpful. I kind of liked it. So thank you so much.
Definitely, like as I mentioned earlier, I don't have a dare to say that okay, it's the Azure Logic App is not meant for the business or the citizen developers, or it's meant more for the pro dev. I can't say that one. What I mean to say, it's definitely like the as a pro or like as a pro developer, you have more options to integrate with the different service component and the flavor within the Azure umbrella. But as a citizen developers, it's definitely worth to have a look on Azure Logic Apps apart from the Power Automate umbrella. So yeah, true.
Yeah, all I meant to say was thank you to getting this on board for us because now I've got one more option.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prashant. Thank you so much, Rohi. And thanks for the D365 Champ community to provide me a platform here. And I will be just looking forward for coming up with more sessions and more knowledge sharings.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
everyone, in case you want to speak on this platform, the call for speaker link has been shared in the chat window. So please feel free to go ahead and submit your session. Thank you. We are already over time, so I would like to end this meeting now. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you, Ambesh. Thank
Thank you,
you for
everyone.
joining.
Thank you, everyone.